And so the other thing, I thought another really good line of Mike Pence's was when he said, "Quit playing politics with people's lives," because Kamala Harris making this stupid um, comment that I won't take the vaccine if Trump tells me it's safe, which the American people, that's not going to work on the American people. The American people are smart enough to know that we don't get vaccines approved just because Trump says so, and that it has to go through the approval process. And Mike Pence saying that this is very dangerous for you to play politics with people's lives on this vaccine. Thought that was a very strong moment. Kamala Harris is literally anti-vax and coming off as an anti-vaxxer and undermining confidence in vaccines. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's going to play well. I thought Mike Pence had a really good point when he brought up the 7.5 million coronavirus cases versus a 60 million swine flu cases. That was a fantastic moment because Mike Pence said, look, if swine flu had been as deadly as coronavirus, you would have had 2 million deaths under Obama under the swine flu. And we've had 7.5 million coronavirus cases. They had 60 million swine flu cases. That was a very effective. I think that was very effective on her point. Oh, this was so funny. Kamala Harris brought up the deficit. I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you serious, Kamala Harris? You're bringing up the deficit and the debt? I can't believe she had the gall to actually bring up the deficit and the debt when she's talking about absolutely blowout spending packages like the Democrats caring about the deficit. Just so dishonest. One of the major themes throughout the entire debate, one of the major themes was Kamala Harris was lying and disingenuous and demagoguing and making purely emotional appeals, purely 100% emotional appeals, and relying on fake news and hoax news stories that have no backing, and disingenuous claims and emotional appeals. And I think the American people saw right through it. I think people see right through that crap. The moderator was completely biased. I personally would love to see a calculation on who got so much time, because every chance that moderator got, she cut off Mike Pence, and every chance she got to give Kamala Harris extra time, she did it. So I really couldn't believe how biased that moderator was, and I'm sure the American people are going to recognize that too. I thought when they got into the debate on the taxes, I thought that was a great moment for Mike Pence. Straight up called out Kamala Harris lying on taxes, because Kamala Harris says, "Oh no, we're not going to raise taxes. We're not going to raise taxes," and Biden's like, Pence is like, Biden has said over and over again he wants to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Over 80% of Americans got a tax cut under the Trump tax cut. The average American family saved $2,000 on taxes under the Trump tax cut. 80% of Americans got a tax cut. It wasn't just for the 1%. That's a completely made up fake lie. The big like theme too is that these Democrats cannot debate unless they've got fake news stories. If they've got any facts, or if they had to debate on real facts, they would lose these debates. Almost on every single issue, Kamala Harris had to rely on some mainstream media news story that's totally fake news and a total scam, whether it was on the taxes, whether it was on the economy, whether it's on healthcare, whether it's on the deficit, whether it's on climate change, whether it's on Trump calling soldiers losers and suckers. The entire debate was nothing but Kamala Harris, like literally having to rely on fake news, mainstream media, anonymous source, garbage stories that are not true. Without the fake news media and the mainstream media running all these lies and fake stories that then enables Democrats to repeat them in debates, these Democrats couldn't debate even like they did in this one, which is not very good. They did not do a very good job. The Green New Deal moment was fantastic. The Green New Deal moment was so good. I can't believe Kamala Harris tried to say that that they don't support the Green New Deal. and the blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris was an actual sponsor of the Green New Deal in the U.S. Senate. She actually sponsored the Green New Deal with AOC. And now she's trying to say she doesn't support the Green New Deal. There were so many moments like that of lying, and like the fracking issue. Like she tried to say that they're not going to ban fracking and they're not going to ban fossil fuels. And it's like, dude, this is just like the Biden debate. If you're a far leftist nut job, you have to be so mad right now because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have now repudiated all of these far leftist policies in both the presidential debate and in this debate tonight. Kamala Harris repudiated the Green New Deal, even though she's been telling leftists for years that she wants the Green New Deal. And that's on issue after issue after issue where Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have been pretending to support, or they really do support these far left positions, and now they're pretending to not support them. If you're a far leftist, you have got to be so upset. Pence 2024, 100%. I love Mike Pence. I can't believe how good he was tonight. I'm even surprised and shocked at how solid Mike Pence was. That was just such an incredible blowout by Mike Pence. It's just incredible. Pence absolutely destroyed Kamala on repealing the Trump tax cuts. Kamala tried to say Biden won't raise taxes. That was the best moment of the debate. I put in my notes here. The best moment of the debate was when Mike Pence called out Kamala Harris and absolutely destroyed her about repealing the Trump tax cuts, because she was trying to say that they're not going to raise taxes. And then he's like, no, you've literally said multiple times you're going to repeal the tax cuts. And those tax cuts were for average Americans. So what? That was a big moment, big moment. And then Kamala Harris's economic arguments, I just thought were so silly, almost as silly as the coronavirus. Dude, it's like the American people know that Trump is going to be better for the economy. And trying to say that the only reason Trump had a good economy was because they're riding Obama's economic coattails, blaming the economy on Trump when it's the fault of the coronavirus, I just don't think that's going to be effective. The American people know that the coronavirus is not Trump's fault. The American people know that a global pandemic that started in communist China is not Trump's fault. That's a completely BS attack. And everybody knows that the economy has done way better under Trump because of Trump's policies, and that the economy was sluggish as all get out under Obama. And so, I kind of take hope, and I get happy when I realize that, wow, the Democrats' best arguments are on the coronavirus and the economy, and this is what their argument is. If that's what they're choosing to focus on, and that's the argument they're making, that's pathetic, because these are incredibly weak garbage arguments. I thought Kamala Harris engaged in a bunch of emotional scare tactics throughout the whole debate, talking about how you're going to lose your health care, and you're going to not be able to know where your next meal comes from. And it was nothing but emotional appeals and scare tactics and fear mongering from Kamala Harris throughout that entire debate. It was actually shocking to see how she had no substance, really. It was just a bunch of just demagoguing and emotional appeals and trying to scare people on their economy. I thought Pence had a great line about Obamacare, because they were like, and Pence was like, "Oh, I'm glad you brought up healthcare, because everybody knows Obamacare was a disaster." And it's true. The American people do not like Obamacare. Obamacare caused American people's health insurance premiums to skyrocket. There's 140 million Americans who had their health insurance premiums go way up under Obamacare. It's not a popular thing. I thought that was a great moment when Pence brought up remembering Obamacare. Oh, and then I thought this was another instance of the moderator just being a total fake newser, was when she was like talking about how, oh my gosh, look, there's a hurricane right now, and there's a hurricane right now in the Gulf. There's a hurricane right now. What are you going to do about man-made global warming? And it's like, don't you guys always tell us that, hey, there's a difference between weather and climate? You can't use weather to argue climate, which is why every time it snows and it's cold out, when conservatives say, it's really cold, it's snowing, what about global warming? The Democrats and leftists are just like straight up, oh, you can't use weather to talk about climate. Learn the difference between weather and climate. And then on fake news, every time there's a hurricane, oh my gosh, look at these hurricanes. There's so much hurricanes. And then I loved it when Mike Pence, this was so gold. Mike Pence said, There's no more hurricanes today than there were 100 years ago, and that's fact. And oh, that was so good. It's like their entire argument is that there's so many more hurricanes today. Oh my gosh, there's so many hurricanes today, and they're wetter hurricanes, and look at the weather, and to try to argue their climate point. And it's like, no, actually, nope, there's no more hurricanes today than there were 100 years ago. And that basically caused Trump or Pence to win that issue. I thought I thought Pence did a great job on the climate issue and the environment issue, bringing up the Great American Outdoors Act. It is true that under the Trump administration, they've been able to pass a bigger and larger and more conservation focused public lands bill in the Great American Outdoors Act than ever. We have cleaner air than we've ever had in history. We have cleaner water than we've ever had in history. We've done more for conservation and actually preserving the environment. We're trying to properly manage our forests. Like, the Trump administration has actually been very, very solid on the environment. And I'm glad that Pence brought some of that stuff up. And it's like, just because we don't want to crash the economy and retrofit 4 million buildings, and we don't want to ban cars, and we don't want to ban fossil fuels and ban fracking, doesn't mean we don't care about the environment. I thought Pence did a good job on that. And then I took a note here. Kamala was shaking her head when Mike Pence was literally saying, you guys support the Green New Deal, and explaining what the Green New Deal was. And Kamala Harris is sitting there shaking her head and acting as just nasty as she did, and rude and mean-spirited and cold and just horrible. And that's like, Kamala Harris, you were literally a sponsor of AOC's Green New Deal. Don't sit here and shake your head when Mike Pence is saying that. And then, oh yeah, and then she said that Obama saved the auto industry. These Democrat Kamala Harris must think the American people are so stupid to believe some of this garbage that she was putting out. It's like, save the auto industry, really? Save the auto industry? No, you didn't save the auto industry. And then I took a note here when Kamala Harris was asked about China, she absolutely refused to say that China's our enemy. Kamala Harris would not say that China's our enemy. I thought that was a really bad moment for her. I think the American people are smart enough to know that China is definitely our enemy. China is a big time enemy. And the fact that Kamala Harris refused to say that, especially when you've got Joe Biden running, who's got family ties to corrupt Chinese communist officials, is not a strong position. Another Kamala Harris argument that was completely based on a lie was this one about how the Trump administration got rid of the pandemic office in the White House, which is a complete lie that's been debunked a bunch of times. There was a bureaucratic reorganization, but that office and the pandemic response coordinators and people in the White House didn't go away. It didn't get removed. There was a reorganization. And so it was just like, it was another instance of literally every argument that Kamala Harris had and made was literally backed up by a fake news mainstream media article. It's like, these Democrats would not be able to say anything or do anything if it wasn't for the fake news media constantly putting out fake stories that they can then cite. Mike Pence was absolutely perfect. Yeah, you can say he was slow, but like, no, no. He is statesmanlike. He's class. He is cool and calm. Boy, is he good. Boy, is he strong. I think Mike Pence may have won 2024 tonight. I honestly think Mike Pence may have sealed the deal for 2024 tonight. He was that good. He was that good. Kamala Harris was trying to complain about equal time when she literally had way more time throughout the debate. I thought that was childish. And then her making contrived crocodile tears about Trump's comments on soldiers, which are not even true. It's like, it's so ridiculous. It's like, Kamala Harris, she comes off as so phony, so phony. And I think people could see right through her crocodile tears. And then she refused to answer packing the court. I thought that was another big moment. I don't think the American people like the idea of court packing. Court packing is not popular. I thought that was a strong moment for Biden to really press her on that. And then Harris admitted the violating public health rules. Kamala Harris literally said, I was participating in the rioting and looting throughout, like, when was it, April, May, June, July, that long period of time. She literally said I was partaking in those protests in violation of public health rules. So she sits there, and Kamala Harris wants to lecture us and lecture Biden on coronavirus, and yet she was the one that's admittedly violating all public health rules during the pandemic. But no mention of that being a super spreader event by the moderator. Complete joke. And then another instance where Kamala Harris had to rely on a lie was when she was saying that Trump has refused to condemn white supremacy. People are so sick of that lie. The American people know that's a lie, and we're sick of that lie. Sick of it, big time. That did not go over well for her. So those are all my